Hello guys, James here. Well, I'm about to show you something that this is two controversial topics, and it's unfortunately it's in Islam. So what's the controversial topics? Number one, you're gonna hear a Muslim cleric says this, that you can beat your wife. We, we will believe that the European women in our times yearns for a husband who would like to be and would like to provide the views with some status. 90% of British women do not marry a weak man who sits down and cries the moment there's a problem. There's no such a man looks more like a woman than we want. Beating is a serious accusation. Allah honored wives by instantly punishing by beatings. Honor them with beatings. How is this a problem? The Prophet Muhammad said, "Don't beat her in the face and do not make her ugly." See how she is honored. If the husband beats wife, he must not beat her. Even if he beats her, he must not curse her. This is incredible. He beats her in order to discipline her. In addition, there are not more than 10 beatings. Must not break her bones and injure her. Break her teeth, poke her in the eye. There is a beating elephant. If he beats her and disciplines her and not be raised a hand high, he must beat her in her chest level. At these things, honor the woman. She is not needed of a disciple. How should her husband discipline her? Through admonishment. He should not deter her. He should refuse to share a bed with her. He should not He should not beat her. If she's forbidden to beat her in the face, make her ugly. When you beat her, you must not curse her. Islam forbids this. What should beat her with bare hands or with a rod? If you beat her with the beatings, it should not be hard, so they do not leave a mark. You can't beat her with a short rod. To avoid beating her in the face, in her head where it hurts. The beating should be only in the body and should not come one hand. There are all choices to meal during the process. The beatings are allowed as the last resort. The honor of the wife in Islam is evident. Is that fact punishment of beating is permissible in one case only. When she refuses to sleep with him. When she refuses to sleep with him? Yes, because where the husband goes, if she refuses, he should be begin admonishment and threats. Repeat this, a man cannot beat his wife. Or food or drink. Beatings are permitted only in this case, which the husband cannot do without. So what he's saying is that you can beat if you beat your wife, according to what he's saying, what the Koran is saying, you can hit her in the body, and it was a man showing you can hit her up here, but you can't hit her in the face. This is in Islam. And you can't put a bruise on her face, but you can't break the skin. You can beat her. And they said, what reason for you beat her? In Islam, she can't refuse you to sleep in the same bedroom. This is what this guy just got done saying. Like, wow. So, yeah. So, you, like I said, for you, some of you women who are non-Muslim, you should be thanking God in this case, especially traditional, but in traditional Muslim household, even though they're not allowed to, don't slap her and cause a bruise, but if you get in an argument and it's getting to a heated argument, and that man decides to pick up a rod, he can only strike her in her upper body part. And it was a guy that was showing this, was instructing it in Kuwait, showing how the way he struck women. Now, personally, I don't think you should strike a woman. In any, if you get into a heated argument, just leave, man. But to them, if most men would just leave the house or whatever. No, not their case. But anyway, have you ever heard this thing called honor killing? Oh, this happened in America. This guy, the next case came from a father a while back accused his. Wait a minute. This is a short clip, and I'll play the longer clip of his daughter, and called honor killing. See the short version first.
Have you heard of life insurance with living benefits?
It's gonna trip you out when you hear about this.
Pays out tax-free cash.
First at 5 o'clock, a daughter takes the witness stand in the trial of her father, who was accused of killing her husband and her best friend.
Prosecutors claim the deaths were part of an honor killing, and Ali Ersan's daughter was the next target. Channel 2 investigators broke Ersan's possible connection to the killings before he was charged. Investigator Robert Arnold is live downtown with today's chilling testimony. Robert?
This is the first time we've heard Nesreen Beavers talk about the murder of her husband. She spent several hours on the stand talking about what she said was a strict Muslim upbringing in the fear she says she felt after marrying a Christian man. Nesreen Ersan Beavers told jurors
she married a Christian man.
What she characterized was a household ruled by her father, 62-year-old Ali Ersan. He is on trial accused of taking part in the murders of his daughter's husband, Cody Beavers, and her friend, Yelare Begerzadeh. Prosecutors contend Ersan enlisted his wife and son in the murders because his daughter married a Christian man and felt her friend influenced her move to Christianity. On the stand, Nesreen was asked, "Were you ever told what would happen if you did date or did marry someone not Sunni Muslim?" She said her father told her. "He said he would kill us both if I got a boyfriend or married." Nesreen then talked about how she and Cody had to take numerous precautions for fear of her father finding out where they lived, fighting tears. Nesreen then told jurors about the day she came home from work and found her husband shot multiple times in their apartment. "I tried to wake him up and he wasn't moving, and he was cold. I just started screaming." Convinced of her father's guilt, Nesreen said the lead detective asked her to call her father to see if he would say anything incriminating. "I said, 'How could you do this to me?' He said, 'I don't know you. Bye-bye,' and he hung up." Now, Ali Ersan's wife is expected to testify against him in this trial. Meanwhile, tomorrow, the lead detective in the case is scheduled to take the stand. Reporting live from downtown, Robert Arnold, KPRC, Channel 2.
So you say, well, that's just one case, James. Oh no, second case number 2.
For harboring a fugitive. But what so pained me was, this is a case, and we see this so much, where the mother in this case had made a police report when the little girls were younger, claiming that they had been sexually assaulted by their father, Yasser Said. And then the parents convince the children to recant the story, and therefore the police drop the case. And so, Nancy, what do you do with that?
A technical legal term at you. That is total BS. Complete BS. Because I have had and prosecuted a case where 2 little girls were raped by their mother's live-in. The mother, of course, sided with the live-in, a phenomenon I saw over and over and over, where women cover up for the men that molest their children. And the littlest one, who she was raped, full-on raped, she was 3, over and over and over by the live-in, who had all the money. He ran all the horse carriage livery trade in Atlanta. You know those tourist horses?
Oh, yes.
Also had a limo service rolling in money. And the mom thought it was more important to keep living off him like a parasite as opposed to standing up for her children. On the stand, the little girl recanted. prior to taking the witness stand, she continued her recant until I direct examined her. I had already spoken to her before. The defense attorney and the mother had gotten her and her sister to recant prior to trial. But I went back through what happened to her on the day she was molested, and she told the jury exactly what happened, what truthfully happened. I have her in my mind right now. She was about, 4 feet tall, and she had to have 50 barrettes, all matching on her head, and matching her little outfit. And I looked at the mother, and I thought, UPOC, another technical legal term. You dress her up on the outside for me to see, but yet you allowed her to continue being raped. So,
Nancy, I want to ask you something, because
what?
you brought up the mother here, how angry you were, and there are a lot of very strong feelings. A lot of our listeners have very strong feelings about the mother in this case, Patricia Owens. So Patricia married Yasser Saeed when she was only 15 years old. He was something like 29 years old.
Yeah.
She says soon after that, it became abusive. She says it was an abusive relationship. She tried to leave several times, like that one time when she went to the police to make a report.
Successfully left the home and went to live elsewhere with relatives, getting her girls safe. And what did she do? She went back to him. Yes, I know. Look, I worked at the Battered Women's Center as a volunteer for 9 years at night. I get the Battered Women's Syndrome. But there is a point where when you're getting battered, it's bad enough. But when your child is getting raped and you let that happen and you take them back into it when they're begging mommy no, then that's on you, lady.
And she testified in the sense she gave her victim impact statement, which we're going to play in a little bit. And so, again, very mixed feelings here, because she made that decision. She was in Oklahoma. She had set up an apartment. She had gotten the girls out. And days before they're murdered, she makes the decision to come back because Yasser got to her. And I think, and I agree with you, but I don't think anyone will feel the pain of that loss and that decision more than this mother.
Well, I
know.
agree with you. That still does not make what she did right. And now the girls are dead.
Yes.
Murdered.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
He brought them back into the home, and the father, who she knew was an abuser, who was a sex predator on these two very girls, were murdered.
Horrific. It was so horrific, and I want to play the 911 tape, because Nancy, you talked about how the girls were shot. They were shot inside a taxi cab outside the Omni Hotel in Irving, Texas. And what is unbelievable to me is that Sarah, who was shot the 9 times, she manages to call 911 while she is dying, and she identifies her shooter, her killer, her father. She clearly does it. So we're going to play a clip from my original investigation that's got the 911 call for you. Listen to this. A terrified 17-year-old girl pleads for her life as she's being murdered. Oh my God. We hear cries and then silence. And when the bloody bodies of Sarah Saeed and her 18-year-old sister Amina are found riddled with bullets in an abandoned taxi, investigators launch an international manhunt for the missing driver.
How do we know you'll love pretzel crust? Because this...
Well, and let me stop it right there. Well, that's in America, believe it or not. This is not in some foreign country. Then it happened over in England too. But this was going on, man. This is one of the things that they take their stuff really serious over there, boy, and they bring it here in their country. They bring that some of them bring that mindset over in this country. And if the daughter step out of whack, that's what they do. Here's another case. Iraqi
when it comes to
woman.
protecting my business, I joined over 300 300,000 other small business owners just like you and me, and it switched to Next. My name's Tim.
Wearing an American-style baseball jacket, Tiva seems the epitome of the modern young woman. She tells her YouTube subscribers about the birthday surprise she's organised for her boyfriend.
Happy birthday to you.
A modern relationship shared in a modern way on social media.
Hello.
Tiva, who'd been living in Turkey for the last 5 years, also used social media to talk about threats against her and her family. It seems her father back in Iraq disapproved of her lifestyle, and when she returned in January, he killed her. In a tweet, a spokesman for the Iraqi Interior Ministry confirmed Tiva al-Ali had sought help from the police. We were surprised to hear she'd been murdered by her father on the day we were supposed to meet with them again. He said the father had then handed himself in.
Taiba Ali's murder is it's a horrific tragedy, and it must be investigated, and the perpetrator must be brought to justice. And you know, when I think about Taiba Ali's case, I wonder how many more Taiba Alis there are going to be, because without adequate protection placed for Iraqi women and girls, these are the risks that they're facing every single day.
Shopping malls were a favourite filming location of Tiva's, but sometimes there were cracks in her carefree image, like here when she started crying. She was a teenager when she fled Iraq, claiming a member of her family had sexually abused her. Violence against women in Iraq has long been a cause for concern amongst campaigners. A Home Office report in 2021 highlighted the fact that Iraq lacks legislation to prevent and punish so-called honour killings, and the Iraqi Penal Code allows for lenient punishments on the grounds of provocation, or if the accused had what it describes as honourable motives. The law doesn't explain what honourable motives are.
The current Iraqi Penal Code is very lenient when it comes to honor crimes, including, for example, murder. So this domestic violence law needs to make sure that domestic violence is criminalized, but it also needs to ensure that a reporting mechanism is put in place, and that shelters are available for women.
A draft domestic violence law was first introduced back in 2014, but widespread opposition from politicians has stalled progress. Tiva had recently announced plans to marry her boyfriend. She'd got his name tattooed on her hand. Campaigners are hoping her murder will finally be the catalyst for change. They've organised a series of protests in Baghdad tomorrow.
Well, earlier I spoke to Ala Talabani, who's an advisor to the Iraqi Prime Minister on Women's Affairs in Baghdad, and I began by asking how people in Iraq have responded to the young woman's killing.
Unfortunately, it was a very heartbreaking news for us, especially for Iraqi women. Although the honor killing is become common in Iraq, but the way or the case with Tiba was shocking for the youth, girl and boys in our society. Absolutely, it's not easy to talk about honor killing in Iraq, especially we've been trying for the last 10 years, as I was MP, trying hard to pass a law on domestic violence, and each time we were failed.
Well, ironically, might this give new impetus to your attempts to pass that bill that you've been trying for so long? Might it succeed this time? You might see off opposition from some of the religious groups who opposed it last time.
Well, if we look at the Iraqi social media, because everybody is now looking at social medias in such cases, you have negative side and positive side of it. I'm happy that I see many young boys, especially with civil society organizations, are supporting our work and effort in saying that that's the right time to pass the law in the parliament. But in the same time, or in the other way, there is so many, unfortunately, not nice comments about what happened to Tiba. They justify it as it's a normal crime because she's a young girl, she went out of the house, and things are not normal to our society. They are neglecting the case, the real case, why this happened to Tiba, why Tiba had to leave her house, because she left the house because she faced violence. Tiba faced death for leaving the house, and nobody are defending her or trying to help her in the family.
I mean, the law was changed 20 years ago to allow so-called honor killings to be treated as murder. What would a new law do that isn't already possible, at least under the current laws?
We don't have a specific law in Iraq recognizing or about domestic violence in general. The last 10 years in the parliament, we created a women caucus. I was the head of the women caucus. Unfortunately, there were so big numbers of women MPs who were not supporting this law, just simply because they were part of some political parties with backward ideas from tribals, from some sectarian and religious parties. Every time when it was coming to be voted, we faced lots of people or voices were against passing the law. What good about this law is recognize honor killing as a crime, because so far the society or the official government and institution, they are not recognizing honor killing as a violence against women or as an honor killing. It's like any normal crime.
We've seen protests really take off in Iran after the death of Mahsa Amini. There are calls for protests in Baghdad tonight to remember Tiba and call for justice. Do you think the same kind of scale of outrage and protest could be possible in Iran?
I don't think that there will be big demonstration or any gathering for Tiba. There will be some here and there, but what good is we will watch the trial of Tiba's father, because here is the case. Like, if we need law to combat violence against women and especially honor killing, and to address honor killing, not to leave it and to be ashamed to talk about it and to be hide from the society and not to report honor killing case in Iraq.
Ala Talabani, thank you very much.
So, what you think of that? I don't know what part of the Quran that's in, but it seems like it's a thing don't they do over there.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna show you how I got this awesome high-tech smartwatch for
That's
free.
why they really take it
out.
seriously, man.
So, this is the website.
Developing tonight, the man charged in the murder of his sister's best friend pleads guilty. We've been following the so-called honor killing since 2012. Channel 2 anchor Andy Sirota is live at the Harris County Criminal Justice Center downtown, where Nassim Ursan appeared in court today. Andy, good evening.
Christine, good evening to you. Discussions between prosecutors and Nassim Ursan's defense team began quite some time ago. 40 years in prison for murder is what they came up with, versus the possibility of spending life behind bars without parole if convicted on a capital murder charge. Nassim Ursan's capital murder charge dismissed in exchange for pleading guilty to murder and going to prison for 40 years for the 2012 killing of Galeret Bagazardeh, his sister's best friend.
The evidence would have been different. There were witnesses who would cooperate in Ali Ursan's trial that would not have been able to testify, or would not testify per their agreements in this trial.
Prosecutors say Ali Ursan was angered that his daughter Nisreen left the Muslim faith because she was influenced by Bagazardeh, who introduced her to Cody Beavers, the Christian man she eventually married. They say Ursan believed that killing the people his daughter loved was the only way to erase the shame she brought upon her family and restore honor. Nassim Ursan and his family, according to prosecutors, all played a role in Bagazardeh's death.
Well, I think it was apparent from the beginning, and also they spent weeks trying Ali Ursan's case. I think it was apparent to them that he was a master manipulator.
His attorney believes today's plea deal is a fair resolution for everyone involved. Ursan will be eligible for parole in 15 years. Prosecutors say they are now working on how to proceed with the case against his sister, who is also charged in connection to Bagazardeh's death. Live downtown tonight, Andy Sirota, KPRC Channel 2 News.
Andy.
Wow. This is not just happened in England, but this is in America among these people that come over from over there in Iraq and Egypt and Pakistan and places like that. Wow. But see, like over there, they get punished over here. But according to their mindset, that's the way it is. That's why I said we in America got this delusion that everybody's the same. No, 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 no. So we can integrate. No, no. They don't want to integrate with you, man. They don't want their kids to even integrate with you. No, when it comes to relationships like this, maybe friendships, but not no relationships. And they tight lid on that. No. And you keep seeing these cases, man. It's like, wow, man. It's like, this is crazy. Just because, and you know how Christians and Muslim. Well, he clearly didn't want no. He clearly didn't want her going out to marry no Christian. You know how we have, and people like, oh, in America you can be Catholic and you can be Presbyterian in the house. Not in their household. You can't. No, it ain't no Christian. Ain't no it. It ain't this. Now this man gonna give a quick version of his honor. Came from the cleric itself.
We have what is known in some countries as honor killing. There's no honor in killing. But whenever they doubt that their daughter spoke to a relative or to a neighbor or thought of getting married to someone from another country, the only way to erase such shame is by killing her. Which means that those culprits would go to hellfire for their major sin. And they have nothing to do with Islam. Definitely they have nothing to do with honor.
Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings be upon all of you. Welcome to another episode of Let the Quran Speak. Today with us is Brother Shabir Ali, and we'll be talking about honor killings. What does Islam say about honor killings? Is it transcultural? And the social political implications of honor killings. So to go straight into it, Brother Shabir, what does Islam say about honor killings, and does it even talk about it in the first place?
Yes, to begin with, there are passages in the Quran which indicate that in Arabia, when the Quran was being revealed, there was already a known practice where men buried their daughters alive, and this was in some way to protect their own honor. So the Quran condemns that practice and upholds the sanctity of life.
Okay, so does Islam condemn honor killing in that case, or like?
Yeah, the condemnation from the Quran is very clear. I mean, men would, and this was quite strange. We cannot even imagine today how people could actually do this. Man burying his daughter alive, it seems quite gruesome. But apparently they had some sense of honor and shame connected to the birth of children. The birth of a son was a cause for great celebration, and the birth of a daughter somehow brought shame to the family. I don't know why. Probably because the men were more powerful generally, and to have more sons just increased the power in one's clan or tribe, and to have daughters perhaps was seen as a source of weakness. And so they decided to get rid of their daughters in some way. Obviously, not everyone killed their daughters, otherwise the population would have come to a halt. But at least some did, and this was condemned in the Quran more than once. The Quran says in one place, وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. On that day of judgment, when the buried girl will be asked, for what crime were you killed? And this will be a way of God debasing the murderer in this case by showing that here we have an innocent person being killed. the sanctity of life. For example, in Surah 5, verse 32 of the Quran, it's very clear that if anyone kills a soul, this is as if he's killing a whole people. Because you see, it's not only the one person he's killing, but he's killing all of the potential progeny of this individual. If one person has two children and each of the two children has two children each, then you can imagine through the multiplier effect that you're dealing here with a whole potential large population. So when you kill one person, just bear that in mind. You're not just killing the one, but all of the potential progeny.
Okay, so if that's the case, why does it happen in Muslim communities?
Well, it seems that this is due to many factors, largely cultural and heavily emotional. In terms of culture, we can see that there were ancient practices in societies prior to Muslims being residents in those regions. And naturally, Muslims either came into Islam with some of these social baggage, or they eventually adopted the cultural practices from the regions in which they went to live as Muslims.
Okay. Another question that I have: what evidence do these perpetrators have? As in, like, a lot of times you hear that it's actually a part of Islam and so forth. So, can you think of any examples that they use from either the Quran or the prophetic biography?
I don't believe that any educated Muslim, meaning any Muslim who is educated in the Islamic sciences, would say that this is a part of Islam. I believe this is universally condemned against by people who understand what Islam is. Maybe average Muslims may presume that this is Islam, because the average Muslim may have a sense that he or she lives in a Muslim society, and that everything that goes on in that society is going on precisely because it is Islamic. And so they equate whatever they're doing with Islam, and they call their practices Islamic, whereas in fact they may not be. And in this case it isn't. Moreover, sometimes things are done for emotional reasons, and Muslims being enthused about their faith may want to be so protective about their families, such that if their families deviate from the faith, they may take this to heart and take matters into their own hands. But nothing in the Quran says that one can beat his or her children. It is well known that other scriptures speak about the beating of children and recommend the beating of children, but not so the Quran. The famous proverb in English, spare the rod and spoil the child, actually is related to a statement that comes directly out of another scripture, but not so in the Quran. The Quran, in enjoining on children to be merciful and dutiful towards their parents, teaches us to make the following prayer: Our Lord, have mercy on them as they used to be kind to us when we were children. So the idea is kama rabbayani saghira, the way they used to nurture us and care for us as we were children. That is the same reciprocal relationship we will extend towards our parents, and that is characterized in the Quran as being full of mercy and humility and kindness, not even saying a word of contempt or disagreement to the parents. So if that's the reciprocal relationship, then you can imagine then how that will be spoiled if parents beat the children. Because it would mean that we beat the children and the children beat the parents. It's reciprocal. But since we are not allowed to beat the parents, we're also not allowed to beat the children in a way of looking at it. So one may, in some cultures, have found that beating has its positive effects, but that does not mean that even if it has positive effects on the case of some individuals, doesn't mean that it has universal and global positive effects. It may, on the whole, have negative effects which will outweigh the positives. So there are ways of coaxing a child, of persuading and so on, that does not involve beating and physical punishment. And naturally these are the ways that we should use. But the whole rearing of children should be characterized by kindness that is similar to the kindness that the Quran enjoins upon us to extend towards our parents.
Okay. So,
don't stop right here. But okay. That's their, that's just be clear. That's his version of the Quran. But let's see how the other places feel.
Cool down any room in 90 seconds with this affordable mini air cooler. Tired of hot and stuffy rooms during summer? This genius way to cool any room.
This is Palestinians.
What do you think of honor killings?
I'm against honor killings, but it is something that happens here, not too much, but it is something, not only here in the Arab region it happens. I'm against, but this is the reality, it does happen.
Okay, why does it happen? Give me an example of why.
Because the law is not strong, and it doesn't take the proper action. Things are not clear, Things are not clear. If you have strong law and strong government, it will take a position against these things.
And they don't. What does he think of honor killings?
They're good and bad, but mainly they are bad because it's wrong to kill your daughter.
Okay, so why could it be good? What's the part that's good?
شخصية منيحة. Some people feel comfortable when they clean the reputation of their family.
What do you think of honor killings?
It's a bad thing. I'm a lawyer and it's a disaster thing here in Palestine.
Okay, do you know anyone who was killed?
No, but I hear some story about these things.
Okay. Why do you think it happens?
Why does it happen?
ايش يعني ثقافة مجتمع؟ لأنه هي ثقافة مجتمع.
A society's culture.
Yeah, because it's society. I'm not good in English.
It's society and culture?
It's the culture of the society. Society's culture.
Do you think it's getting better? There's less?
It's getting worse.
It's getting worse?
Yeah, it's getting worse. Here, it's getting worse. In Arab country, I think. It's getting worse.
In all Arab countries?
Not in Palestine. Just in Palestine, no.
Oh, just in Palestine, no?
No, I think in Arab country, not just in Palestine.
All of them.
Yeah. What about here? Is it getting worse here in Palestine?
Yeah. Yes.
Also?
Yeah, also.
Oh.
What do you think of honor killings?
Honor killings?
Yeah.
It's complicated question, and you have to make a big discussion for this, but it's not acceptable at all.
Okay. If there were stricter laws to stop it,
Again?
if there were strict laws that were very firm and strong, saying you cannot do honor killings.
Sorry, I'm not understanding.
لو كان في قوانين صارمة أكثر بتمنع. لو كان في قوانين صارمة بتمنع هذا الشيء. What if there were more strict laws that would prevent this?
It doesn't come from law, came from culture. You have to make change in culture.
Okay, how can you do that? How can you prevent?
About education and making people having open-minded.
Okay.
And,
be more open to differences and to different ways.
Yeah, you have to accept that different people and different ways to but it must be restricted,
What do you mean?
It must be restricted.
Stop.
It must have yeah, but it is not acceptable at all to honor killing.
What do you think of honor killings?
Honor killings? Well, it should be forbidden. There's nothing justified killing someone else. No matter what they did.
Okay.
Nothing justifies killing people.
Do you know anyone who was ever killed in an honor killing?
No. But I just hear a lot.
You hear in the media,
Yes,
right? Okay. You don't know anybody.
No.
ايش رأيك في القتل على خلفية الشرف؟ قتل النساء. First of all, there's a lot of words that have no meaning, such as shame, such as honor, such as traditions and customs and norms. That's why they are called these crimes should be called killing women, not honor killings.
النظام الفلسطيني القانوني لازم يكون أكثر عدالة في التعامل مع المجرمين اللي بيقوموا بقتل النساء.
The Palestinian law should be stronger when it comes to preventative laws for not killing women. The Palestinian government should issue a law to protect the Palestinian family from violence.
وإحنا كجيل جديد لازم
and us as a new generation, we must fight the old culture.
مع الإدراك إنه هاي المعركة واحدة.
Keeping in mind that this is one fight
ضد النظام الذكوري
against the patriarchal system
اللي بيميز ضد الشباب
that discriminates against youth,
ضد النساء,
against women,
الأقليات الجندرية والLGBT, ذوي الإعاقة.
the minorities and against the LGBT and the special needs.
It's a one battle, all against one, اللي هو النظام الذكوري.
So it's one battle against the patriarchal system.
If you're copying Americans, that's good. What do you think of honor killings?
Sorry, again?
Honor killings.
Honor killings? It's like killing people.
Because of family honor.
I disagree because I feel that both genders are equal. Doesn't mean that if someone makes anything, he should be killed. There are other ways they can be disciplined or talked to, not by killing. If you kill someone, you don't teach him anything. You just take away a life. And
why do you think that they do it then?
I think it depends on a convention in the society. It's like traditions, not according to religion or any humanity. Like they feel that if they do it, they be released from other sayings and what they believe. It's like social pressure, and that's it. It doesn't mean that you have morals. We don't kill animals. How about the human beings?
What does he think of honor killings?
شو رأيك في جرائم على خلفية الشرف؟ أو القتل على خلفية الشرف؟
بالنسبة للقتل على خلفية الشرف حسب القضية.
So it depends on the case.
بس احنا كعرب مسلمين
قضية
الشرف خط أحمر.
Muslims, honor is a red line. You cannot cross.
Okay. So what, can I ask for an example?
Sure.
Okay, so what if somebody in his family is gay?
نفترض على سبيل المثال انه مثلا حدا بيقرب لك gay. حدا بيقرب لك شو بصير؟
القضية
is legitimate, not legitimate?
To kill them on the basis of honor?
Yeah.
هل بحق لكم تقتلوهم او تقتلوها على خلفية هذا الشيء على اساس الشرف ولا لا؟ موضوع ثاني هذا.
موضوع ثاني لانه انا قلت لك برجع بقول لك حسب
issue or is it something else? He said it's something else because as I told you it depends, it's case by case and it depends on the circumstances.
Okay, so ask him for an example where it's okay and ask him where it's not.
أعطيني مثال بيكون إنه أعطيني مثال وين بصير ممكن إنه يصير هذا الإشي وأعطيني مثال مش ممكن يصير هذا الإشي. إنه عاد إنه يصير في جريمة قتل على خلفية الشرف ولا ما يصير جريمة قتل على خلفية الشرف.
شوف مسك اليد تحت شعر في البيت يعني كزوج بهاب اذا مثلا مرة اجت مرة في بيته مع رجل اخر
if a person was
يحق له شريعة القتل لانه
طب واذا كان الاشي بالعكس اذا كان الزوج مع امرأة ثانية وزوجته مسكته نفس الشيء
ليش لا في اختلاف بين الرجل والمرأة
okay. If a husband comes home and finds his wife cheating on him, then yes. And I told him, what about the other way around? He said it's the same thing. If a wife comes home and finds her husband cheating on her, then also that is it's okay.
What do you think of honor killing?
What I think about
honor killing.
جرائم الشرف العائلي.
جرائم الشرف.
قتل على خلفية شرف العائلي. What I think, what I mean, what يعني if I accept it or not?
Yeah. What's your view? Good, bad, no?
Yeah, sure, it's bad. I think most of the people was killed in Palestine and maybe all over the world. It was not يعني مش حق يعني it's not right. It's شك. Sometimes it will be like
a doubt. Shadow of a doubt.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Sometimes they are killed just because someone has a doubt about them.
There's a suspicion that they did something.
Yeah.
Got it. So it's not sure that they even did something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the countries there is law, there is court
met someone 2 minutes ago who said, it depends. So if his wife cheated on him, it's okay. You're allowed to kill her. Why do you think people think that's okay? Some people think it's okay.
Why they think okay, I don't know why they think okay, but killing in general, but as a principle, it's not allowed for people to kill people because they don't give him the life, so they don't get it back. Who gives the life? The only one who had the permission to take it up. But in the society, is there is no. I mean, God.
Sorry.
God gives life. God can take it.
Got it. Okay.
And he usually takes it. Usually, this is in the whole case. But in other cases, we have in all the countries there is a law, and even in the countries that كيف أنا بعرف إنه حتى في الدول العالم بطل في اليوم قانون القتل يعني حتى لما بيثبت عليه تهمة القتل ما بقتلوا يعني.
In other countries of the world, even when someone is convicted of murder and it is proven that they did commit the crime, that person isn't punished.
But they're not killed.
Yes,
generally.
by execution.
Yes, by execution.
Whoa. Yeah. That was in Palestine. But in Pakistan, places like that. But here's a short video.
The practice of honor killings tragically occurs in other parts of the world, but is almost unheard of here in the United States. Until the case of a young woman in Arizona that had some wondering if the practice may have moved here. 48 Hours mystery correspondent Troy Roberts explains.
It was in this Peoria, Arizona parking lot that 48-year-old unemployed truck driver Falah Amaliki, a married father of 7, a man with no criminal record, rammed his Jeep into 2 women. Amaliki sped away from the scene, leaving the 2 severely battered women on the pavement. Eyewitness Chanel Nakamoto.
I heard just the sound of an engine speeding up, just I heard a thud. I saw a girl laying in the rocks, face down.
One of Amaliki's victims was his 20-year-old daughter, Noor. According to investigators, she had left an arranged marriage in Iraq several years earlier and had moved out of her parents' home after constant fighting about her lifestyle. The attack left Noor in a coma. 2 weeks later, doctors pronounced her clinically brain dead. Her family took her off life support.
The mystery is why, and what would possess a father to do something like this to his daughter.
Investigators believe that Noor Maliki may have been the victim of an honor killing.
When a young woman strays from what her family expects and she tries to stand up for what might be her legal rights, her family may react, retaliate by killing her or hurting her in order to avenge her misbehavior and clean its own honor, redeem itself in the face of the community.
Primarily occurring in parts of the Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa, cases of honor violence are now being found in Europe, Canada, and the United States. Experts have no handle on the exact number of cases, but worldwide the UN estimates that at least 5,000 women are murdered each year in the name of honor.
You know, you can talk to me.
Jasvinder Sangera works with survivors of forced marriages and honor crimes.
Nowhere in Islam, Sikhism, or Hinduism, in any of the major faiths, does it say this is acceptable. Honor is man-made. It's a oppressive cultural practice.
As for Falah Amaliki, he was charged with first-degree murder in the death of his daughter Noor, one of the first honor killings in the United States to be prosecuted. Amaliki chose not to testify, but his attorneys argued that it was all just an accident. He never meant to kill his daughter. For 48 Hours Mystery, I'm Troy Roberts.
Really, you caught one of your daughters walking on the sidewalk as an accident? Man, you killed your daughters, dude. But yeah, man, it's just this stuff is right up under our nose. But it's not just in America. UK.
These are the faces of the British victims of so-called honour killings. I'm saying so-called because the word honour has no place in any discussion about murder and abuse. There are an estimated 12 victims each year in the UK, mostly young women who are accused of shaming their family.
We have people ringing that have had relationships that are disproved by family members. They are gay. they are wanting to study and have aspirations where the family want them to marry. We have people who are divorcing and their family won't allow them, or their community won't allow them to divorce.
Charities say they are contacted 700 to 800 times a month, but that number surges just before school holidays when threatened girls seek help.
This time of year, the summer holidays approaching, is just the busiest time of year for us because we have victims of forced marriage who are very concerned that they're going to be taken out of the country and forced into marriages.
So-called honour killings are denounced by all major religions, yet there are around 5,000 each year across the world, largely from South Asia, the Middle East and North Africa. One of the most high-profile victims was Kandil Baloch, Pakistan's first social media celebrity who was killed by her brother in 2016.
He said that he was ashamed of the photos and the videos that she would post online. I think that it is important to talk about her killing because I feel like it was a moment in Pakistan when a lot of women turned around and said that they were fed up with shouldering the responsibility of carrying a family's honor, and it was a moment when a lot of Pakistani women started to question why they were being placed in that position.
Kandil's case still hasn't led to a conviction. Like so many of these murders, justice has not been done.
So many honor killings would remain unsolved because the family or community is not going to report it in the first place. There's collusion within that community or that family. They're going to stay quiet about it.
Although the crimes committed in the UK are not as high as other countries, there's evidence that it's a bigger problem than we thought.
We're finding that there are emerging communities affected by this issue that perhaps weren't coming forward around 10 years ago. What we know about honor-based abuse is just the tip of the iceberg.
So what needs to change?
We're calling for more awareness, we're calling for more training, and equally we're calling for better recording of it. There is no data set evidencing accurately how grand the scale of this issue is. So it's really important that that is done in order that this issue can be prioritised.
Isn't that something? You know, it's sad that people don't know what love is. True love is for your wife, your children. They don't know. It's sad. It's like, really, it's just that this is just sad. You know, there's no love. Just because you have a little falling out with your kid because they choose to go a different direction and they want something different, the parents can't even accept that. And dang, young Pakistani girl burned alive in honor killing. It goes on and on and on. So you Pakistan, Palestine, Egypt, North Africa, Southeast Asia, damn, that's crazy. And it says by tradition.
Leading on the top of the third, it's a blue
Hey everybody, I'm here with Dave, who just got a nice win on FanDuel, and it's just the third.
One of the FBI's most wanted fugitives will now spend the rest of his life in prison. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes.
I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. A jury convicted Yasser Saeed of capital murder for shooting and killing his daughters in Irving in 2008. After the verdict was read, the mother of Sarah and Amina Saeed looked their father in the eye. Her ex-husband said he had blood on his hands and that he deserves worse than life in prison. The jury took just a few hours to come to a unanimous decision after closing arguments this morning. Fox 4's David Tendry live with a reaction to the verdict and the sentencing date.
Yeah, Steve, following the guilty verdict, Yasser Saeed's ex-wife, who is also the mother of those two girls who were killed, looked Saeed right in the eyes and called him the devil.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant Yasser Saeed guilty of the offense of capital murder.
Yasser Saeed, now convicted of murdering his teenage daughters, Amina and Sarah, in Irving back in 2008, shooting and killing them in his taxi cab. Prosecutors say he did it because he was angry they were dating non-Muslim boys.
You're a devil. You murdered your girls.
Saeed's ex-wife and mother of the girls, Patricia Owens, speaking directly to Saeed during a victim impact statement following the verdict.
And that mean look that you are glaring at me with, I'm not scared of you anymore. You can keep those evil eyes on me as long as you want, but you will never break me down again. Nor will you ever be able to hurt another person. You can keep those evil eyes glaring. Just glare away, because this is going to be the last time that you see me. At this time, you are nothing. You are a prisoner. You are a murderer. And the devil.
Saeed tried to claim someone else murdered them, and that the night his daughters were killed, someone was following them. He says he feared for his life and left the girls in the cab alive as he ran away. Saeed, however, never called 911. Instead, he hid for 12 years until the FBI found him in a relative's home in Denton County. Saeed tried to blame the FBI for not searching for an unknown person who he says was the real killer.
My client, Yasser Syed, has always told me he never did it.
Saeed's decision to testify Monday was somewhat of a surprise.
Mr. Syed had always said he wanted to testify, so let him testify. He wanted to, it's his choice.
Prosecutors believe it helped their case.
His story unraveled, right? We poked holes in that.
Last week, prosecutors played a 911 call in which Sarah told dispatch she was dying after she and her sister were shot by their father.
I think from the evidence you can see that he's probably a true narcissist. He believes that he's smarter than everyone else. He believes everyone is inferior to him, especially women.
Prosecutors did not seek the death penalty, so Saeed was automatically sentenced to life in prison with no parole.
I know now that he can't hurt anybody else.
This leader of the house, a leader has authority to write company. The board of the wife was decided to discipline the wife so she can move on. How does a husband beat his wife? He gives her a disciplined beating out of love. He loves her. So he gives her a disciplined beating out of love. He makes the wife feel her femininity and her husband's masculinity. Now let's see how Islam teaches how to beat your wife. Let's imagine it's Arif here. How are you, Nazif? Now he's obviously a boy. Well, let's imagine he's the wife. He's showing you how you beat your wife in Islam. This is Islam. How many times did I tell you? How many times do I have to tell you? You don't have permission to leave the house without my permission. I tell you. See, this beating, this beating.
ويضرب كف على وجهه وما ادري ايش. هذا لا يجوز. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم، شوفوا رحمه الاسلام، الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن اللطم وضرب الوجه. نهى ان الرجل يضرب وجه
don't slap your wife in the face.
يعني اضربها كف، اضربها على راسها،
don't hit her in the head, punch her in the nose. This is prohibited.
ولا يجوز. نهى الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم الضرب ضرب تأديبي. شوف شلون؟ لا تطلعي مره ثانيه. سمعي الكلام. ضرب ما يعلم. ما يعلم.
Not loses. The beating I give her now is a true gentle beating in Islam. Brothers, why do brothers beat their wives? Because wives like dominant authority of her husband. That's a nation that's violent, powerful, perfect. According to him, Oh, wow. Wow. So that's how you beat your wife in Islam. Wow. You get it straight from them.
Good. In Islam, we're not allowed to beat your wife, okay? When you talk about physical abuse. But what you have in the Quran is a system. If your wife is doing fahsh, if she's doing fahsh is lewd actions. If she is going towards immoral, let's say she's having an affair or something like this in the streets, you see her with a man, those kinds of situations, even then Islam does not allow you to just go and beat a woman. Like what we see in the West. We see spousal abuse, you can go Google the statistics and things. Islam does not allow that. First thing, to advise her. Give her advice, tell her, look, what you're doing is wrong. Leave these bad actions. Leave these immoral behaviors. But if she doesn't listen, then separate your bed from her. And you can't then just go and punch them and beat them like people do in the West. No. Islam, then you separate your bed. Tell her, look, if you don't leave your immoral actions, then it will lead to a divorce, and this is how you will be separated. So you should give her a taste. It's a process. And then the last, if she is out there doing immoral actions, the last of them is to lightly, physically warn her. Meaning, the Prophet explained that what does it mean? Like spanking the kid? No, even lighter than that. Then you would take something like miswak, the toothstick, which will be like the size of a pen, the wooden toothstick. And you will take that and you will lightly hit to show that you need to physically wake up. Those are the rules and regulations. Aisha, the wife of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, her name is Aisha, she said that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never hit any of his wives, never hit his children, never hit anybody like Anas ibn Malik, one of the people who used to serve the Prophet, used to be there very close to him, a young man. He said the Prophet never hit us, never scolded us even. That's the example he set. Right? Now, just to be fair, let's look at the Bible. Right? We already talked about the wife's hand being cut out, right? But if I think that's enough. Right? Let's give you some more. Exodus 21:7. If a man sells his daughter to be a female slave, you can sell your daughter into slavery. She shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, you sold your daughter into slavery, but if she does not please her master, who has betrothed her to himself, and then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt deceitfully with her. This is to show that you can even sell your daughter. Now, let's talk about beating, right? I can't believe President squared up on this. It's interesting, right? Exodus 21, 21. So Exodus chapter 21, verses 21. If a man beats his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. You can beat your slave, your servant, half to death, but if he stays alive a day, you have no punishment. Islam never allows anything like this. You cannot beat your servants, you cannot beat your slave, you cannot beat your children, you cannot beat your wife. That type of physical abuse is always forbidden in Islam. You do have physical reprimand, where you would physically tell your wife, look, what you're doing is wrong. And anybody would do that. If you, I'm saying generally, as a non-Muslim, if somebody sees their wife with a guy in the street hanging out and being immoral, you will physically go and grab her, right? And if you take a toothstick the size of a pen and you hit somebody with that, you can't hurt them, you're not going to give them a black eye, but you do kind of get their attention. And that's where it is. But the Prophet forbid beating the wife. Clear hadith. One should not beat their wife. That type of abuse is forbidden in Islam. In Christianity, that is not forbidden. We challenge Christians to show us a verse in the Bible that does that, right? We don't have it. How you doing?
That's their version. That's what they said. So But yet there's honor killings over there and there's white beatings over there. So someone ain't getting it right over here in different cultures. So, but yet, yeah, just pointing some things out. Did the prophet P? The reason why I showed this is because it was just to get their version of it. Their version of it. Like I said, I'm trying to be fair and balanced when it comes to something like this. Let's see what apostates say.
Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. How would you feel if the majority of your country thought that men are allowed to beat their wives for several reasons, like burning the food, going out without permission, not wearing the proper clothes, not obeying men, and so on? How would you feel if you were that woman? You would probably be fed up with all of that and seek your way out of this. What if you couldn't? Because domestic violence is the tradition, the culture, that's the norm. What if there is no possibility for you to escape? That might sound like horror to you, but in other parts of the world, that is the reality. Let's come to another topic that is widely discussed in the West, especially between critics of Islam and apologists for Islam. Wife beating in Islam. Whenever I talk about a topic, I want to take examples from the Koran and the Hadith. In this case, we have both of them, and I want to go by a very important verse. This verse, our first and most important source in this video, is the following Quran verse that makes everything crystal clear. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. Quran chapter 4, verse 34. I read the Quran 3 times as a Muslim. The first time was a bit shocking and I questioned a lot of things, but I just kept reading. The second time took a bit longer and I thought a bit more about the verses. The third time was when everything was falling apart. In all 3 times, whenever I came to this verse, it bothered me so much that when I was finished with the chapter, I would still think about this. I looked it up in different translations. I tried to look at explanations. I went to the Arabic Quran and started to study the word, the root word. But the result is said crystal clear. It says, strike them in one translation, beat them in another one, scourge them. Some add explanations like lightly, or if it is useful, or if nothing else helps. But the point remains, strike them. Of course, some could say that it is in the Quran, but that most Muslims probably don't approve of it, right? That's what we would think in the innocent West. Well, a survey supported by UNICEF made in 2011 shows us that 92% of women in Afghanistan, I repeat, of women in Afghanistan, think that a husband can beat his wife for multiple reasons and that it is justified. Unfortunately, the same survey hasn't been done in all Muslim countries. That's where we can look at a Pew research, which reveals that the majority of Muslims think that a woman should almost always obey her husband. I like to mention Turkey at such a point because Turkey is a rusty bridge between the West and Islam, and in Turkey, 60% of the population agrees that a woman should always or almost always obey her husband. 60% in Turkey. One would suggest that those are living a wrong or distorted form of Islam, but isn't that very unlikely? I will come to that specific point in a separate video. Let's come back to sources. Some apologists in the West claim that the verse is misunderstood, and that wife beating is either not mentioned, not allowed, or a bit difficult. Those who claim that it is either not mentioned or not allowed talk about different things, like that the root word, which translates here to strike them, actually means something different, that it means separate with them entirely. I don't even want to go into discussions about different meanings and stuff like that. I made a short video about that before. You can go to that video either right now or at the end of this video. There are also others who justify the verse and who make explanations like these. Only if she commits adultery. The punishment for adultery is a completely different punishment. The punishment for adultery is death, and we can find that again in Islamic sources. Beating is allowed, but only lightly. Yes, some hadiths, I will link them below in the description, say that a beating should be lightly, and that no marks should be left. What's the point? It's allowed to chastise women, but it should be done lightly, so it's not so bad. That's the point. Well, the Quran enables wife beating. Sorry, there is no excuse for that. Women need discipline. Well, yes, from a Muslim perspective, but who disciplines men? Women? Of course not. That's forbidden. Another explanation and deflection is that Muhammad said, a good man doesn't beat his wife. Well, that's not what he said. The source that those people are referring to explains that Muhammad allows wife beating. The source tells us that Omar, a later caliph and friend of Muhammad, came to Muhammad and told him that women have become emboldened towards their husbands. He, the prophet, gave permission to beat them. Then many women came around the family of the Messenger of Allah, complaining against their husbands. So the Messenger of Allah said, many women have gone around Muhammad's family complaining against their husbands. They are not the best among you. And that's it. He only said they are not the best among you. Well, awesome. He also allowed in multiple sources, I will link them all below, to beat wives. And he did it himself. That's where we come to the next point. Another claim made by people is that Muhammad never beat his wives. Wives. Well, let's look at what Aisha, Muhammad's favorite wife and child bride, said about that. The hadith explains very longly that Muhammad once went out of the house and Aisha woke up and followed him out of the house. Then she went back in and Muhammad saw her when she was going back in. In the relevant part of this hadith, Aisha says that Muhammad struck Aisha on the chest and she felt pain. And then Muhammad said, did you think that Allah and his apostle would deal unjustly with you? As you see, in terms of women's rights, there is nothing to defend about Islam from a Western world view, where we have gender equality. Some people stepping in public and ignorantly saying Islam is the most feminist religion does not change the fact that in Islam, women are considered second-class humans, whom you can take four of, who you can beat, who can be chastised, and who are considered dumb. So feminism and Islam hand in hand? I will talk more about that in another separate video on the status of women in Islam. And it is very hard to understand why a woman would want to convert to Islam, which happens very, very, very rarely. That's like a free person converting to slavery. For now, this is enough. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on social media for updates. I'm very active on Instagram and newly active on Twitter. You can also support me on Patreon. I would appreciate any kind of support, even if it's only $1 or $2. The link is below in the description. Let's make this whole thing much bigger and spread the word about what the religion of peace really is. Because we have freedom of speech and we should be able to use it. We will see each other in another video. Thank you for watching again and stay away from Islam.
Whoa, he broke it down. That's why I said Eric was like, okay, we're gonna see two versions of what's really going on. Who's telling the truth and who's just want to keep the thing going. But yeah, according to them, and how you hit your wife politely and things like that, and yeah, But some people keep saying, no, you can't beat your wife in Islam.
I'm going to actually respond with arguments. I'll just respond to this wife beating. Simple question, Paris. Do you believe women should be subject to laws? If you do believe that women should be subject to laws, then that means you believe women should be subject to all kinds of violence, including being beaten, jailed, even executed. That's what it means to be subject to the law. So there really is no difference between Islam on quote-unquote wife beating and human rights. Both Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women are accountable if they break the law, and that means Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women should be beaten. We only differ on who should do the beating. You say only the state can punish women. Islam says no. Power should be distributed across kinship groups, and this means that the patriarch has authority to physically discipline members of his family, including his wives, if they violate important norms and values. Women, if you violate the law, shouldn't you face consequences? And if you have to face consequences, who would you rather mete out those consequences? The cold iron fist of the bureaucratic, technocratic state, or the person who loves you the most in the whole world? Look, let me put it like this. Is it possible to run a corporation without the possibility of physical discipline? No. You have to give managers in these corporations the right to beat their employees. How do you beat your employees? Well, if the employee violates the norms of the workplace, they get fired. And if they do not voluntarily comply, security will be called to remove them by force. Managers have to have the right to beat their employees. Patriarchy is hardwired into our DNA.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Now, I'm glad he let that be revealed, because over in probably in them countries like Libya, that's probably what they do. In Egypt, when they especially come to the black slaves and everything, I think that's what they do. They beat them. And I showed you on one video where they had women from Africa and Asia over in Lebanon, and their wives, Lebanese Muslim wives, were beating on African Muslim women. So that's their way of doing it. This was over in some of these people's native country. I'm trying to tell you, man. It's something about, it's the spirit of these people. The spirit on these people ain't right. Some of these people, they have that spirit of Islam, but they try to, it seems like they cover it up, but it's like, man, now let it be for real. And it's like, wow, man. But I just wanted to show you, I'm not being xenophobic or anything. I'm just showing what they're saying on both sides. I'm fair and balanced when it comes to, but you see the other side. Again, all I gotta say, I'm glad I belong to the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, because He don't have us doing that to our wives. He won't permit that through His Spirit. He won't permit us putting our hands on how you discipline your wife and all that. Thank God the Most High through His Son Yeshua, better known as Jesus, don't have us doing that. We ain't supposed to be doing that. And if someone was doing that, the Lord would tell that woman to leave. You don't beat your wife. She's your other half. That you don't beat your wife. But I guess that's normal over there. But it's like, it's okay that you guys show masculinity. You guys gotta grab her by the shirt. Look here, woman. And I said, don't you dare go. and that's how it's permitted. First of all, don't put it can add up to a little slap can add up to a mark. A light slap. You can poke somebody with a rod or something. But anyway. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Yeah, and I can say to my American women, so you should appreciate the American man and those who you not brought up in that strict Islamic tradition. You should love your American man or your Western man, because some of us don't do that to you. Some of us let you go out the house. You don't need permission. They say, look, you why'd you go out the house for? Damn. Yeah, that's crazy, ain't it? Any man doing something like that, that's too much control. Alright then, guys. Till next time, take care and be blessed. Hope you enjoyed the video. Share it, like it, and just give you an eye opener what they do, what their families like over in parts of the world, in the Arab countries, the Asian countries, and that's their reality. All right, then they bring it over to America. So now you know when they look like some of the women like they scared or they look like they just. Now you see, now you know what the women that wear the hijab. When you see some act like that, now you know.